What are we waiting for?
We scoping the place out, man. We ain't gonna just run up in there. That's how you get shot.
Say that again. You are. Wow. Ooh. Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely
Man, you
not.
don't know nothing about no war.
Everybody knows war. Huh. Yeah. What it is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Good God, you are.
It ain't you all, it's y'all.
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 Man, you sound like a karate movie. Y'all.
Y'all.
Say it from right here with some soul. Y'all.
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 Let me show your goofy ass how to do this. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Come on.
It ain't nothing but a heartbreak.
Giants fans, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of the 2024 NFL Draft Show. Tonight we are breaking down the top offensive tackles in the 2024 NFL Draft. I love talking about offensive tackles. Right up there, I mean, the left tackle and securing the blindside protection. It's top 5 position and top 5 need of any NFL team. I would love it if we can get to a point where we really don't have to worry about our offensive tackle situation. But unfortunately, for the 12th year straight, the New York Giants have to worry about offensive tackle. We'll see what they do with the draft because they can either go very high or they wait until the mid-rounds. I do suspect that they will take an offensive tackle. Whether they do or don't, it's still worth going over all these guys. There's a lot of talent with the offensive tackle position, a lot of dudes we got to break down. And of course, here is a position where some under-the-radar guys very much likely turn out to be ballers, even though they go in the mid-rounds. It's just one of those positions. So first and foremost, let me enter in Chris. Chris is joining me in truth tonight. Chris, what is going on, man?
Hey, Mike, Spartan Mike, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Looking forward to talking tackles. Hopefully I can hold my own tonight with you two draft gurus.
No, you always do. You always come in with that notebook too. So, I mean, we're looking forward to it. Really because, I mean, you and I haven't really gotten a chance to do many of these shows together over the past month and a half. I mean, we love doing the draft show and whatnot, but then there's not really much overlap because me and Truth are pretty much separated doing this the whole time. So, man, it is really great being back on air with you.
Likewise, same here.
And might as well bring in the king himself. Truth, what is going on, man?
What's going on? Yeah, I got a little tear there.
You-
Between you two just now, you were talking. I got a little tear from that.
I'm getting a little tear because you're upstaging us right now in your attire right now. I mean, you look fresh.
I think Truth just came back from the combine.
No, I didn't. I worked a 12-hour day today. That's where I came from.
It does kind of look like that. Actually, that's a good point, Chris. You do look like you just scouted at the combine.
Yeah, you're a coach.
Like you just put away the speed gun, and you just put away the cones and everything like that. You got all the notes. You know, we know damn well we know that you do just as good a job as many of those people at combine, especially for teams like the Washington Commanders. You have done a better job in assessing players than that entire franchise has the whole century. So,
hey, how appropriate here. We're doing the show tonight, and they have the combine today with the tackles.
yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely. And you know, I mean, a lot of the things that, well, I guess that's something I want to ask you guys both before we start. I mean, you know, I find it a little challenging watching the combine and trying to assess the offensive linemen just because there's a lot that goes into it. But I'm always blown away if one of these dudes has a really good 40 time. And then the other thing that I feel like you always have to look for in these is the footwork. What do you guys look for when you looked at the the combine for the offensive linemen?
Oh, yeah. I look at that shuttle because you want that lateral movement, especially looking at the tackles.
Yeah.
So I think the shuttle is really one of. I mean, you always hear how many times a tackle going to run 40 yards, but you do want them to move well laterally. And as we'll see as we give our opinions on some of these tackles, some of these tackles could be projected more as guards because of that lack of that lateral slide and move to the side. So I like the shuttle.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, that turning ability, that movement ability. I mean, that's something that you really need in an offensive line, right? I mean, at the high school level, you don't have to worry about it so much. There's a lot of run blocking. You really just the big dudes out there speed secondary. But in the NFL nowadays, I mean, it's ever more important for the offensive lineman to have athletic ability. Truth, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I agree with Chris. The shuttles are very important for these guys' footwork. When they transition into the NFL, it's a faster game than it is in the college level, and I think that's where some of the guys have a hard time transitioning. Was when they go in from the speed aspect of the game. It's big. It's totally different.
I mean, I would argue that's been one of the struggles that Evan Neal's faced throughout his career, right?
Yep.
It's that, and trust me, he does it better than just about anybody who's ever lived. He's a good offensive tackle, but when you're comparing it to the the NFL level and you're trying to pick up a Micah Parsons versus some of the slower defensive ends from Ole Miss, it's a challenge. I mean, it definitely is a challenge at that level to adjust if you don't really have that twitch ability. So let's get right into it. Giants fans, we're going to start with the 5 dudes that I have. Middle of the road in terms of the dudes that we're all breaking down tonight. Chris will go next with the most blue chip guys, the big names like Joe Alt. And then Truth will wrap up with a mixture of, guys that are mid-round picks, but also dudes that are really under the radar that he feels like are going to be those flash gems in the draft in the long run, have a unexpected career. So I'll start us off. Just go with a name that we've definitely all seen before. Troy Finanu. So this dude is the Washington offensive tackle, and he's been part of that program that's had a lot of talent go through in the last 2 years and really turned ship from losing to an FCS program in 2021 to being a pretty damn good team now. So Troy is a very, very good pass blocker. And what he also does super well is he has that ability to be extremely physical as a pass blocker while also being able to stay in front of his blocks. A lot of offensive linemen struggle with that ability, but he executes that one very well. So he's very strong, and he can take on both strong and athletic players, if you will, which is a good dynamic to have because a lot of offensive linemen struggle versus one or the other. He reacts well to speed. So if a guy like Micah Parsons, and I always think in terms of like, can this dude block Micah Parsons? I don't know if you guys think like that, but just due to the circumstances the Giants have to face, it's like, can he block Micah Parsons? I actually feel confident that this dude has the ability to do so just because he's so good at picking up the explosive fast players. It doesn't really faze him too much. He's also very good at picking up stunts, and he keeps his head on a swivel, which is key because that's been another issue with the Giants linemen is being able to adjust to stunts or assignments or anything like that. I mean, there's sometimes miscues. I don't see this out of him. Okay, some of the cons, though, he is a little bit short. So he's another guy that's going to come up as, might he be a guard at the NFL level? He plays very high on the run blocks. Run blocking is not where he executes by any means. Not always the best balance. And the one thing is a little bit weird, but he does need to be a bit more aware of what's going on in the backfield with the quarterback and whatnot and where he is. Obviously, his main focus is to stay on the edges and whatnot, but a little bit of awareness there because he has pushed, linemen towards the quarterback, towards the running back. He just has to be a little bit careful. Truth, Chris, any further comments on this dude?
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, so Mike, in terms of like a balance, and I know he's good off to his side, sliding to his left, but in terms of balance, I don't know much about him. Did you say that he has good balance? Does he anchor well at that tackle spot, or is he over his toes like an Evan Neal?
Well, a lot of film I saw him. Sometimes he lunges at the defender, so he does get a little bit on his toes, not on the balls of his feet. But I agree when Spartan mentioned about transitioning the guard. This is a good candidate that he could go on the inside.
Yeah,
he could go on the inside, absolutely.
The only shame of it is I feel like when it's, and I'm sorry to cut you off. The only shame of it is when he's that good of a pass blocker. And he is that good at covering the edges. It's like, I'll go over a guy in a minute, the Duke lineman. I mean, he's a natural fit because he's such a good run blocker too. But like, it would suck to lose Troy's pass blocking ability on edges as he transitions to guard. But he totally can do it, and it might be best for him.
And Mike, let me Spartan, and you, both of you guys, in truth, do you foresee him getting an opportunity and drafted as a tackle? With in the back of a coach's mind saying if it doesn't work, like, do you think he'll get time or you think he gets plugged right into, let's say he falls to second round. So he's not that first round tackle, but do you think he's slotted at guard immediately?
I actually think they're going to try him at tackle before they try him at guard, just because the level of play and see how he adjusts to the NFL. But the expectation with what he's good at is to play offensive tackle, but due to his size, might cause a transition. Other guys on this list, you know, I'll get to them in a minute where it's exactly that, Chris. They're going to probably get drafted with the idea that they're playing guard.
Yep, absolutely. I think he'll get tackle first crack, and then they'll see and look to possibly move him to guard.
Yeah, no
He's
doubt.
rejected late first, early second round pick, so I mean he's got talent.
Yeah,
You know what's interesting, guys, is that these tackles that are tweeners, that kind of on the edge. All right, are they going to play guard? Will they be played at tackle? The Giants at that second round pick might have quite a selection of tackles that may be guards, other options, right? So they may have a nice pool of players going into that second pick.
And they're going to have
looking for a true
guards
guard
in the
or that
second round.
right. So they may fall into even some extra players with some of these tackles being viewed as guards.
Yeah, and having that dynamic of a player, like the ability to play both, is key, right? The idea, I will say this, though, about dynamic players. I will say this. I want to know that they killed it at one of the spots. I don't want to hear that they can play, and this is across the board, like Jabril Peppers, if you will. He could play offense and he can also play defense. That's fine. I want to know that he's killing it on one of those sides of the ball, kind of like Deion Sanders. You know what I'm saying? I know it's a very weird nuance, but like, tell me that he was killing it as a tackle before you get him as a guy who could play tackle or guard. Don't go for a dude that, well, he was an okay tackle, but maybe he'd be better at guard. I get a little iffy about those situations. I do want to know that they kind of secured some ability to be great. But you're right, Chris. We have a lot of guys we got to talk about that have that ability to play both tackle and guard. That's just one weird little nuance that I look for, but that's it. So the next dude, more true of a tackle, Tyler Guyton, because this dude's 6'8". He's a big freaking dude. 0 sacks last year as a senior. Love it. Love to hear 0 sacks. Pros, obviously his build. He's a very good run blocker, too. One of the better ones of the tackles that I'm going over. Very good awareness of the backfield, of how things are breaking down. His strength is phenomenal. And if he gets a hold of anybody, he's manhandling them. The cons I have for him is the footwork is a little bit slow, and he reminds me of Evan Neal. So when that Micah Parsons question pops up, I do get a little bit concerned about how he would be able to address one of the or protect against one of those guys. Not that great against dudes that are doing cut moves, spin moves, swim moves. He needs to pick that up a little bit more. And the only thing I'm going to say, and truth, let me know your thoughts, because there's another Oklahoma tackle on this list. And by the way, Giants fans, this guy's a true right tackle, which is nice. So if the Giants need that true right tackle experience, he's him. And not because he wasn't good enough to play left tackle, it's because their quarterback was a lefty. Only thing that I also have as like a slight mark is that their quarterback was really mobile at Oklahoma, and maybe those tackles were washed away a little bit. I only say that because we just had Pugh on the show a little bit, or this past week, and he said that about Kyler Murray. Like, that was the experience that he dealt with. Like, hey, I completely blew a couple blocks a few times, but, I mean, Kyler Murray was the quarterback in Arizona, and it washed it away. Oklahoma had that benefit. I don't even know what the name of the dude is, but he can get out of the pocket super well. I mean, one of the better ones at that. But, Truth, you got anything else on Guyton?
Well, to give a plus for him is his length that you talked about,
Yes.
long arms, and he has ability. The only thing I would say bad about him is his lack of experience. A little raw, only 20 starts in his college career, but he has all the makings to be a good quality NFL starter.
Yeah,
at right tackle.
Absolutely.
And
Next
projected
time,
first round. I'm sorry, and projected first round. I got to throw that late first round. That's the grade I have on him.
And if I could add two things, Mike, a couple of things I read on him quickly is grip strength. You would think a guy 6'8", 320, 330 would be stronger. It seems like his grip strength isn't probably what scouts believe it should be. And pad level, just a little issue. Being 6'8" seems to come up high. Pad level, a little bit more bend in the knees and getting that pad level down needs to be worked on.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that is the one tough thing for those really tall dudes is that um pad level, right? Because you do have to have a center of gravity that matches the edges sometimes, or at least be powerful enough to hold on. The one thing I'll definitely credit him with is he is uh, strong enough to maybe be able to overcome that just a little bit, right? But it's still something that he's got to work on. Absolutely no doubt about it. It's something that can be worked on. A little bit challenging, don't get me wrong, but I think he can.
Yeah. I think most guys at 6'8" have pad level issues they can work
Oh
on.
yeah.
Yeah. Let alone being able to clear the doorway.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right.
close calls sometimes. Next dude. So here's a 3.5-year starter, but Graham Barton out of Duke. He's this is the dude I was talking about. Like when we're looking at some of the guys that played tackle that will likely switch to guard. Chris, to your point, this dude will probably get drafted. Like has a very good chance of getting drafted as a guard. He's 6'4", so he's a little bit short. And what he's really good at is that run blocking, is that explosion and downfield blocking ability. When you look at the top plays that this dude had, it's usually the run plays. He's not a bad pass blocker by any means. He's a good one, but really with what his strengths are, he looked like Quentin Nelson with the way he was playing at Duke. I mean, he was a very phenomenal offensive lineman as a whole. So yeah, agility, flexibility, low man wins. Very tough to get by him once he gets a grip on these dudes. His ability, this is another thing that he does too. His ability to adjust angles on run blocks is impressive. And by that, I mean, when you're blocking, when you're alignment blocking on these runs, you're pushing dudes in one direction. If the running back cuts to the outside of you, odds are because you're pushing the defender that way, that's where it gets lost. And, you get a few yards and whatnot. This dude has this rare ability to really swing his body without losing balance and maintain that block so he can create a new hole at a different, in a different area of the field, which is truly outstanding. So he is a good football player as a whole. And then, again, cons, as you can imagine, due to his strengths, is, he needs quicker footwork. It needs to be lighter on his feet. Inconsistent pass block, which I already touched on. And again, he's probably going to be a guard in the pros. I don't see him being an offensive tackle, especially at 6'4". But Truth, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think this guy is going to be labeled. Even now, the scouts have him already thinking about moving him to the interior as a guard. And again, he's another one projected to go late in the first round. He's a good, sound, quality football player, probably a day one starter.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the thing. If a team drafts him to be a guard, and this is why I put a little asterisk markers, because we're trying to outline where these guys might go. Yeah. And if he's drafted as a tackle, it's going to be much later, right? If every team has him as a tackle. If he's drafted as a guard, I mean, he could be going as early as the end of the first. I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I had on him. Next guy I want to go over, Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. Again, always like the story when it's an offensive line or just really any player that played for a program that was unusually good. Arizona was that this past year, and he was with them the whole time throughout his entire career. So pros with this dude, had a great Senior Bowl, had a great senior year to wrap up. His name really popped up in the last year. You didn't really see it much in the years leading up to it. Great footwork, great pass blocker, very strong. Guys, get ready for this. His 4-yard dash was a 5.05. That's impressive as an offensive lineman. Cons, another size issue, 6'4". Needs to watch the holding. That is a super big problem that he has. Needs to be careful with the aggressive first steps. And Truth, you said it about one of the players already, but it's that same thing when we see with the Giants linemen sometimes, right? They nosedive for a particular player and miss a guy that's doing a stunt. He has been beaten around the edge, and he needs a little bit more strength upon impact. Do you have any further comments on Jordan Morgan?
Well, let Chris go first on this one.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't know too much about him. I like the fact that he's I think he's pretty good in pass pro from what I read.
He is, yes.
So coming into the NFL, I think seems like you get better. The tackles seems like overall pass pro is what they're looking for. Run block seems to be I would say not a given, but pass pro seems to be an issue. Everybody's looking for left tackle. So I think the
Right.
fact that he's got some agility, he can slide to his side. I think being pass pro, being effective is, I think that's what he's slotted. Do you see him moving to guard? Not really, right? He's a pretty much a with his weight. I don't know if he's got the anchor behind him to be a guard. Is he more viewed as a tackle?
He would
overall?
only be a potential guard just due to his size at 6'4", right? If they
6'4",
see
okay.
some reason to adjust him, but that's really the only thing, because
Yeah.
unlike the Duke guy, what Jordan Morgan is good at is that left tackle need, right? That pass block, the ability to cover an edge, that flexibility with the hips and everything like that. So, do I see him? It's another situation where if he's getting drafted, it's going to be drafted as a tackle, but teams might move him to guard a year in.
Yeah, and I think possibly, he may move from left tackle to right tackle in the NFL.
Yeah.
They may do that. He's very athletic, this guy. He's got good quickness, and he only gave up 1 sack in 670 snaps,
Wow.
which is pretty good. I mean, I'm going to have you figure out how many snaps are on a game, so that's probably 10 games or so. So he did
And
a
zero,
good
by the
job.
way, real quick, Truth, zero his junior year. So his junior year, he
Wow.
actually gave up 0 sacks.
Good point. Good point, Spartan. Yep.
Wait, damn it, wrong guy. Sorry, wrong guy. That's not true. Never mind.
Oh, bad point. Bad point.
Bad point. Bad point. Guys, you guys got to watch me on those things. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's like the mistake I made with the running backs. We all do it, right?
Yeah. We all do it. We don't have to harp on it too much, but I was like looking, I'm like, I can't find this dude anywhere, man. Truth really dug into the ground for these prospects.
But Mike, I like what you mentioned about Morgan, just with his speed and agility. I mean, you feel confident coming off the edge with these speed rushers that his foot speed, he can get to that point and create the pocket, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mike. We're both Mike. I'm sorry.
I was Spartan, Truth, either one. You guys, both of you guys.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
real quick. I mean, compared to, again, with the Micah Parsons test, the next guy is probably my number 2 with the ability to pick up Micah Parsons, but I'm actually going to say Jordan Morgan's a very, very, very close number 3. Troy's got that ability down a little bit better than the rest, but yeah, Jordan Morgan can definitely pick up the quicker guys.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's why I said that he may move over to right tackle instead of on inside on because he can. Footwork can't compete with the edges.
Right. And then the last 2 that I have is Kingsley Suamatea out of BYU. Going back to what I was just saying, he's a very good pass blocker. The footwork combined with the strength is phenomenal. The balance is very good. He rarely allows a collapsed pocket too. I mean, a lot of even the best offensive tackles will push these dudes, right? And you kind of do like a ring around the rosy and push them around in a circle. He's actually able to just engage them immediately and prevent even the fast dudes from getting to the backfield. He's also, by the way, he's only 21 years old.
Yeah, that's good right there. That's a good point right there.
Yeah, because I don't care what anyone says. I mean, a lot of the times these dudes aren't even done growing at 21 years old. They can grow anher inch.
Yeah, there's a lot of junior tackles coming out this draft, it seems. You see quite a few, at least 3 or 4.
One of the dudes I just covered is 24. I think it's the Washington dude.
Oh, Pateo?
Yeah, Fateo. Yep. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but you are right, Chris. A lot of young dudes, and I always find that to be beneficial in the long run if these guys are a little bit younger, right? Who was the Oregon guy a couple years ago that went to the Lions? I mean, he was a perfect example of that. Drafted at 21, and dude just balling it because he had even more potential to build on top of the fact they were already good.
Penny Sewell?
Penny Sewell.
And
Yeah.
Sewell, yeah.
Yeah. Sewell's that. So, Kingsley's a great player, but another issue that, he has, it's been a common theme, is high pad level for a bigger dude. And he's not the best run blocker in the world. Truth, any further thoughts before we hand it off to Chris for his dudes? And Chris,
No, he is young, like you said, and probably a bit. He needs to smooth out the edges, and I think with time, with good development, he'll become a good productive lineman in the NFL. Absolutely.
Chris, let's go right over to you, man. You got the blue chip right now. A lot of
Which is
Giants
boring.
fans-
Which is boring.
No,
It's like Chris got his hand a cookie jar before we did.
no.
I'd rather not. I like what you guys got. Some of the underlying, the guys underneath the radar, because those are depth pieces, if nothing else. I mean, these guys are given. You would think, well, not a given, but Joe Alt.
God, I hope so.
About.
I mean, it's we've had a lot of guys get drafted that we thought would be somewhat givens.
I know, man. I know.
Well, a lot of guys want to go with Joe Alt with that first pick. So I mean, like, what are your thoughts? Would he be worth that pick? I mean, start wherever you want to. Tell me about Joe Alt.
Yeah, so Joe Alt, 6'8", 320, great arm length at 34 and a quarter. Started 8 games as a freshman in 2021. Gave up 3 sacks over the course of that freshman year. Big frame, powerful punch, resets quickly. And these are, I watched a week worth of film work on him. Very good bend, pad level, always good. Sustains his blocks really well. Feet is always moving, anchors his base, recognizes stunts and blitzes, picks them up well. Really diagnoses what he sees out there, and he'll be a captain for sure. Calling with the center, aiding him with calling the line play. Great balance in pass pro. His feet are nicely spaced, and it seems like he really anchors in well and has that lateral slide to pick up that edge rusher. So those are the positives. I mean, we slime negatives. These guys are not perfect. Couple negatives on all. Slides to his left, good, but not great. But once again, he's got some good foot speed. Just he's not, it's not his strong point is the slide. Although he's good, it's not like what he excels at. He lunges a bit. Needs to improve on that, and his punch, right? He gets a good grip, but it seems like his punch isn't as powerful as you think it would be at 6'8", 320. But I mean, these are minor things that we're talking about here that could, probably be worked on. But all in all, I mean, he's a guy that's probably, he's going to go early.
He's
can't have enough right
tackle, right? I mean, so that's we can get it out there. And real quick, I mean, to your point, we talked about the 21-year-olds. The guy, not a lot of the guys I was going over, but here's an example of him. He's 21.
Yeah.
And he just turned 21. He was born February 28th, 2003. So, this dude was a top tackle in college football at 20 years old. And, offensive lines is one where, it could take these guys a few years to develop in college, and he got there in 3 years. By the way, mechanical engineering major. I don't always want to harp on this too much, but I love a smart offensive lineman.
Yeah. And
I don't know how he balanced that with football.
I believe in many cases, too, he plays in like a 3-point stance, which doesn't give away the pass pro. So he likes getting down in a 3-point stance a lot of times, too, rather than maybe a lot of guys that are up on a 2-point stance and showing pass protection. So he really excels in a 3-point stance. It's funny, if the Giants didn't extend Andrew Thomas and he didn't work out, this would have probably been a Giant pick at 6.
For sure.
I would think. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about one thing we don't have to worry. But Joe Alt's going to go early.
Yeah, everything you said. The guy's athletic. He was a former tight end. He's got great leverage positioning. He is young, like you said, so he's more of a technician, not a brawler, and I think that will come. That man strength he's going to get when he gets a little bit older in the league, a few years down the road. Definitely, he could definitely be a top 5 pick, guys. San Diego's sitting there. He could be that pick. I got either Bowers, him, or a wide receiver going at number 5. So at least a top 10 pick he's going to be. But like Chris said, I don't see the Giants taking him at 6 and moving him to tackle, right tackle, since he never played it. That wouldn't make sense to me. So
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah. So clear cut. I mean, people might trade up for him. We'll see what happens with Joe Alt, but yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely an attractive prospect for all teams. What about LC Latham, man? Because now we're dealing with Bama guys. What are your thoughts on him?
On Latham, yeah. So Latham, 6'6", 342. Yep, J.C. Latham, 6'42", 6'6", 342, 35. Big arm span, 35 in an eighth wingspan. 2022 played 12 games at right tackle, and he's a true right tackle. Sophomore year, played 820 snaps, 12 starts, 0 sacks in 2022. Dominates the line of scrimmage, arm strength, powerful punch, gains depth in his pass protection, very good anchor, recognizes stunts well. He does a great job passing off, and I saw this on the tape too, and somebody else had brought this up. You know, when he's taking care of when he recognizes stunts, he does a very good job at passing off that defensive end or edge rusher to the guard, and depending on the stunt that they're running. So he does a good job of passing off his guy and then recognizing the let's say the tackle he needs to take on a stunt. Very good hand strength. I think I said strong grip. He's a road grader. He drives defenders. Footwork has been an issue. A little slow with the footwork. Needs to stay on his block better. Seems to release from his block a little early. Doesn't finish off. Could be off balance at times. Head over heels at times. Foot speed laterally. They actually flagged this as a bit of concern, that the foot speed laterally, especially when these teams play that wide 8 or they rush really wide, his foot speed on the edge isn't the best. Needs to drop his hips more, although he has a good anchor, but needs to drop his hips a little bit better against a bull rush. But from what I read, I mean, he is 6'6", 342. I mean, maybe he could be a guard at some point if he doesn't work out at right tackle, because he's not 6'8", he's 6'6". I feel like he could play guard. The intriguing part about him is the wingspan, 35 and an eighth. But the lateral speed on the edge, that seems to be a negative for him. So I don't know how big of a deterrent that's going to be and how far he drops in the draft, but lateral speed off the edge could drop him a bit. I'm not even sure if he's top 20. Maybe he makes it to the end of the first round, early second. But once again, like you guys mentioned earlier before, what do teams see him down the road if it doesn't work out? Because you could see him at 342 being that guard.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I see that guy's framing, I'm definitely thinking that in case it's a similar situation to Evan Neal, right? I mean, I can sense it a little bit.
Yeah, 340 is a lot, man. I mean, against NFL edge rushers, I mean, you gotta be able to pick that up on the edge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, 340 is a lot of weight to be moving laterally.
A lot of weight.
Yep. And Chris, the scouting report you just gave him, you could have did the same thing last year for Evan Neal. It was so close. And they even look like the same player in a uniform, same size, similar size. Evan Neal's biggest deal last year, I remember doing scouting at him, was his footwork. Was the footwork. And that's what this guy has, the same exact issue. So it all depends how quickly he adjusts his speed in the NFL. I think that's the biggest thing with Evan Neal. He has not yet gotten acquainted to that speed in the NFL like Thomas did. Thomas, he struggled. Remember his first year, Thomas? He struggled.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then suddenly the switch went on with him. The speed slowed down the NFL, and he figured it out. And that's what Evan Neal hasn't not done yet. So
yeah, you know what worries? Yeah,
No,
what worries me, Truth? I mean, when you see Andrew Thomas, he was a traditional left tackle and he played left tackle. Evan Neal was a left tackle, and then not only is he having problems with the speed, but now he's doing everything opposite. With his leg and his hand punch with the other side. So now it makes you think, boy, this guy's dealing with two things he's trying to get adjusted to. Will it work out? So that it makes you wonder if moving down the road, do teams more look at the guy that's really played a lot of right tackle, if that's where they want to put him?
more specialized.
Do they roll the dice on that freak left tackle that maybe he's not the top 5 pick, but he's in that top 20, and then you say, you know what, we're going to move him the right tackle because we're set at left tackle, but then you run the chance of screwing him up and it doesn't work out either, and now you have to switch him again. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But to your point with Evan Neal, we're going to see what happens with him come training camp.
This is make or break year, I think.
Yeah.
He's make or break years this year.
Yeah.
What about Penn State's offensive tackle? I won't try pronouncing the first name.
Only Shanashi.
Yeah, I'm with you. Olamawaye Fashanu. So we'll go with that. Olamawaye.
They call him Olu. So this is Olu.
He'll be like Osi. Instead of Osi, he'll be Olu. It'll be Olu.
I want him already, man.
Yeah. Imagine 6'6", 312 out of Penn State. Good arm wingspan, 34-inch. Started 2021 after redshirting his freshman year. So he started since being a sophomore. Combination of agility, athleticism, power, strength, elite skills, slides well, good foot speed, recognizes stunts and blitzes, pass protection, very smooth in pass protection, has a punch, good strength, run blocking. He shows his athleticism in run blocking, but he's more of a pass blocker. At that size, you thought he would be more powerful in the run game, but he's really not.
Yeah.
He's more of a pass blocker, athletic finesse type of a tackle. Perfect combination though of power and finesse, but not overly powerful. He's not that guy that's going to be in the second level laying guys out. He has a problem, from what I've read and watched on tape, finishing to the whistle. Almost lets go of his guy early. And doesn't you expect a guy like that? Once again, we talk about grip strength. Have a little more grip strength, holding on to his to the defender. It seems like he gets lost with leverage and gets broken off those hand grip, engaged with the defenders at times. He leans. It's one of the negatives. Where it leans at times. Pad level could be a little high. Not the best bend I put down. Seems to be high sometimes and doesn't bend enough. Once
I gotta
again,
be honest with you.
much
I mean,
better
I do
in
get a
pass
little
pro.
bit What's it? Say it again. Pass
Yeah,
pro?
the two other points I had was once again much better in pass pro. Needs to stay on the defender with his hands and finish better. Those are the two big things I got. Speed's not the issue. It's finishing and keeping his hands on the defender and keeping engaged. Seems like he disengages early.
Balance is a tough one if you don't have it. Like I will say that, right? I mean that is one that goes a little bit unnoticed as to how important it can be, right? And he has a little bit of an issue here and there staying on top of blocks. I mean, that could be a serious issue. But what you're telling me is that this dude's a pretty good athlete at the end of the day, and I like at least having that as a base.
Yep. And you know what, Spartan, being in a passing league, he's going to be fine because 70% of the time they're throwing the ball. It doesn't seem like he's the nasty guy. He's the guy that's going to be the road grader, go to the second level, lay you out. He's a finesse tackle.
No, he's not.
It's all about truth. It's all about skill, technique, athleticism. He's not the mauler, the power road grader that may come out on a screen and lay out. He's going to do his job, but he's not the guy. He's not the nasty. He's not the big nasty guy like a couple of the other guys we'll talk about next.
But when I see a picture,
top guy.
Yeah, when I see a picture of him though, I'm like, man, that dude looks like
top 10 pick. He's doing something right.
Yeah, technique. He's got great technique. There's only a couple things. I mean, all these guys need something to work on. We're all nitpicking things, but in terms of, I think he's a prototypical tackle. Him and Alt are going to be, I think, prototypical tackles.
For sure.
Given.
Well, all right. Well, let's move on to we haven't really talked about that many Georgia players, oddly enough, this year. I mean, one of the receivers, we still got to get to their defense, but this was, one of the better teams. They just blew that Alabama game and were a little hungover from their championship run last year. But Amarius Mims out of Georgia. Tell me about him. I mean, look, we got Andrew Thomas. We know that Georgia can produce some offensive tackles. So, what are this guy's strengths, weaknesses? Tell me about Mims.
Yeah, interesting with Amarius Mims to see where he falls, because today at the Combine he did awesome. His measurables are awesome.
Yeah.
But the problem is he's only played a limited number of games. He's only had 8 starts in his college career. He got hurt his ankle last year and missed a few games. So he's only had 8 starts. And here he is coming out as a junior. So the ceiling could be, this guy could be Pro Bowl, it could be all pro level. But you are rolling the dice because there's just not enough on him. It makes you wonder. You wish you had a bigger slate, right? You wish you had a little bit more book, a little more notes on him. But at 6'8", 340, talk about a wingspan, 36 and an eighth. Just started just 2 games in 2022, his sophomore year. And then in 2023, he missed a bunch of games with an ankle injury. So he is coming off an ankle injury, although he was at the Combine. Everything seems to be fine. But there's just not a big you don't have a big book on him. Only 8 starts, 803 snaps total. However, hasn't given up 0 sacks and 7 pressures in all those snaps. So 803 snaps, no sacks, 7 pressures. So pretty good. I mean, you could see the ceiling for this guy. What makes you think he could fall because it is a risk. You're not getting a full book on him, but huge frame, explosive off the snap, moves rushers off the snap. Surprisingly, at 340 pounds, exceptional laterally, moves pretty good laterally. Very good in pass pro with a combination of power and really gets those arms extended at that 36-inch reach. Good bend, or good wingspan, not 36 reach, but good bend and good bend for someone his size. Plays tall, but that he is 6'8". We mentioned that with a couple other guys earlier. Struggles with lowering his pad level. Once again, he's 6'8". A lot of these guys have the same issue. Needs to take better angles. Angles and edge seems to be a little bit of an issue with him. Recognizing the angles. Exceptional strength, obviously with grip strength, latching on and holding on to the defender. So, excuse me, that's what he needs. That's what he could improve on, is latching on and holding on with his grip to the defender and not breaking free. He seems to, they say hand fight quite a bit. And that's one of the words they used in the scouting report, is that, a guy his size should just be latched on and eat you up. But he seems to be, I'll say patty cakes, but hand fighting quite a bit, where he has the strength and the power just to latch on and not let the guy go. So what's interesting is, at 6'8", you don't see him as a guard. He might be too big as a guard, right? I mean, 6'8", truth?
That's what I see. I see he's too big for a guard.
Too bigger, but he moves well laterally. But I'll tell you what, I see him falling into the second round or late first, and then maybe not initially. If he falls into the second, maybe you don't plug him in right away. But I think this is a depth piece where you're going to grow him into the position and work with him slow, because he's only had 8 starts.
Wow.
In his college career.
Yeah, real quick, I will say, if this is the first year that he's this is the only amount of starts that he's had, I still do find it mildly impressive that the dude's giving up no sacks, right? Because you would expect the progress would be okay. First year starting's a little bit bumpy. Next year, some improvement by year 3, either of starting, not of just being in college, is their clear-cut gem year. That's pretty damn impressive. By the way, this is the SEC that he gave up 0 sacks against. That's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
And one of the best things he has going for him, he's a right tackle. You'll get the help with the tight end, because most teams are playing the tight end on the right side. So if he does need a little help, I think he goes in the first round. You're plugging him in right away. I think the second round he fights for a spot. He fights for the starting job. Maybe it'd be tough it'd be interesting to see what team he goes to, because if he goes if he goes late in the first, could be a team that could spoon feed him in a little bit easier, because obviously the teams at the top need him more, right?
Yep. That's what I see. I see a spoon feeding, late round, first round pick, let him develop while he's learning and let him get some snaps. That's what I'm seeing with him.
Hopefully he doesn't go to the Eagles, because that totally sounds like
he falls. They're
going to get cornerback. They're going to go cornerback, I think.
Has the potential, because his ceiling, man, he could be right up there with Olu and Alt when it's all said and done.
Yeah, one of those, for all we know, right? Because this dude does have that he's got tape to prove that he can be damn good with some small technical things that he can work on, right? So he can be that good. He just has to do that. He's got to get to that level.
Yeah.
All right. What about and I'm very intrigued by this guy, because he's a right tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is.
Out of Oregon State. Tell me about him, because I like his name sounding pretty attractive to me if he can fall out of the first, which isn't going to happen. But tell me about him.
I'm with you, Spartan. And by all counts, and I've just watched a tape on him this week, but there's a lot of people out there that believe that he is the best run blocker in this draft, bar none. And the fact that he's 6'6", 334, 33-inch arm, not the biggest, and that they say that's a deterrent at 33. They like him to be around 34, but laterally doesn't move the quickest. A lot of prognosticators are seeing, or scouts looking at him as a guard, especially with his blocking. This is a big, nasty guy. So let's break into it. Sophomore year, 2022, 12 games, 744 snaps, only gave up 8 quarterback hits, 0 sacks, 312 pass blocking situations, 0 hurries, 0 sacks. Now, once again, he's out of Oregon State, so to keep that in mind as well.
And they're a high-power offensive team, though.
True.
Yeah,
Maybe
by the way,
we-
their head coach is now they're from last year is now the head coach of Michigan State. We just got
Right.
that dude.
Oh,
And
okay, right.
the only reason he left was because Oregon State's like they didn't get an invite to a big conference, right? He was the they've done a good job of developing players over there.
Yeah.
But you're right. They've had a good team the last 2 years. And I think 2 years ago they finished top 10.
Junior, he's coming out as a junior. Played 12 games this season, 700 snaps, 2 quarterback hits, 0 sacks. So in 2 years, it looks like he hasn't given up a sack. So that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's pretty damn good.
So when you
tell
look
you-
at the
No, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So when you look at this Fuaga in the run game, that's what he does. I mean, this is your prototypical guy you think about in he's a tackle, but if he were to play guard, absolute mauler, controlling the line of scrimmage, maximizes his size and strength at 6'6", 334, anchors extremely well, solid blocker, powerful hands, like they say, like vice grips, right? He latches on, and when you watch a tape of him, once he gets a hold of you, he doesn't let go. Excels going to the second level. So that's what makes a lot, I think, scouts see him as a guard as well. You know, most tackles, they get to the second level and I don't say they're jogging out there, but they're looking to, just block. This guy's looking to take your head off again. So not only is he looking to take the head off of, the front 3 or 4, he's getting to that second level with the linebacker and looking to blast him. Controls the defender, nasty. Once again, controls him with that hand grip explosion, right out of the stance, very fast out of the stance. Now, a lot of times you can't tell as quick if you don't have the all-22 and you're just seeing from a distance, but it does appear that way. And then when you read about him, that seems to be a big plus for him, is that he explodes out of his stance, plays aggressive, good pad level, quick first step. He grabs you, holds on, and doesn't let go. The weakness, and this is why when you look at those positives, it goes through the roof, right? The run blocking jumps out at you. But then when you look at the lateral movement, the sliding to the side at the NFL level, looks like it could be a little bit slower. He's susceptible to the speed rush on the outside. Doesn't have the elite reach with the wingspan and with the arm length. Does have trouble flipping his hips on speed as edge rushers, and that could be a concern. Slow in his footwork of when he's flipping his hips and getting turned around off the edge. Timing his blocks sometimes. They say he sometimes could be too aggressive, where he's getting his hands up and working on a punch, and he's susceptible to a twist or a stunt or to some deception by the defender on a move. So all those negatives, that's why I guess a lot of people think they do see him as a guard, just because he's got that mentality of a guard. And the foot speed could be a concern. So it's going to be interesting to see how the teams in the first round view him, because if he falls out of the first round, you got to think most teams do view him as a guard. And who knows, maybe he falls to the Giants in the second round.
Well, if he does fall second round,
That would be 38, right, Truth? Is that 38?
39.
39. Yeah,
So we're right in the
40
beginning of it.
39-47, right? We have
Okay.
picks.
Yep. So that 39th pick, that's right in the beginning.
I'm not gonna add on to that because Chris covered everything on this guy. He's a brawler. Simple as that.
Yeah,
He's a
baller. And at right tackle, so the Giants need the dude at that experience level, and he's available. I love him. I absolutely do.
I feel like we're talking about Quentin Nelson when I hear his positives at the guard.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good comparison, man. Because they're similar size. Nelson was a big boy, and he packed the punch when he hit you, just like this kid.
Yeah.
Truth and Spartan, because of those, let me ask you, because you guys are the draft gurus here. Because we look at the footwork, and it seems to be kind of a big negative when he's slow with his footwork, especially at the NFL level. Let's say he was a guard throughout his career and had these same positives, and the footwork didn't come into play because he's playing between a center and a tackle. Could you see a guy like this, if he was tagged as a guard, playing that in college, going in the top 10? Forget tackle. If he was a guard, would he be going in the top 10?
I think the
Is that
issue.
good?
You do, Truth, because I will say, I mean, if he is slated for interior
Possible.
offensive lineman, I don't see. I mean, it's very rare when you see an interior offensive lineman get drafted in the top 10 anymore. It happens, but even Linderbaum, who was a highly touted prospect, turned out to be a phenomenal talent. I mean, I forget.
I'm thinking
that-
of Quentin Nelson went.
Nelson went
you're right.
6.
Quentin Nelson did.
Yeah,
Quentin
went
Nelson did.
6.
But I will say that, and again, I'm not going to be the kind of guy that if he's a good player, I'm not going to complain if he goes. Only little dent I had with Quentin Nelson. This is why, I mean, a lot of Giants fans are pissed that the Giants didn't get him. They got Saquon instead. I partially don't agree with that because I'd rather have the best offensive tackle in football than the best guard in football. I'd rather probably have a top 12 tackle than the best guard.
I agree with you. You can hide
football.
a guard to a
Because
point.
then you kind of have to pay them too, and it's like, you know, I listen. This is the Giants. We need our quarterbacks protected, but I do feel like Quentin Nelson didn't add all that many wins for the Colts. I do feel like having a top left tackle does add a lot of productivity to the offense because it's just a little bit more critical. And I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to take away from it, but I'm going way too sideways here into different dimensions, explaining why I still don't think he would go in the top 10. I'll tell you what, though, he could definitely go top 20.
Okay.
And I think they'll give him first crack at right tackle. I do.
I think so. Yeah, I definitely think so. Of course, depending on the team that he goes to. I mean, if he gets drafted by the Giants,
get past the Jets, man. He may not get past the Jets. So
no.
Let me ask you this, guys. Let's say he did make it to the Giants at 39, and the Giants ended up having a competition between him and Neal at right tackle.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting there, Chris. It's almost like the consolation prize for either of those guys is the guard spot, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That was my thinking.
Yeah. So I mean, that would be beneficial for the Giants because there's no waste. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I would think it would depend on who's on the board at that time at 39. What other linemen are on the board, or what true guards
Right.
are on the board? Cooper Beebe could be on the board.
Mm-hmm.
He's a baller as well.
Yeah.
I know you didn't do Cooper Beebe yet, or he's on your list.
No, that's later on.
Oh, that's right. That's guard. Who do you think's better? Would you rather have a Fuego or a Beebe if you had him at guard?
Well, I don't know how well Fuego can play the guard position. I know Beebe can play it well because he's done that for all throughout his Kansas State years.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Really transition over to a new position without any difficulty. If he doesn't, then that's a tough call.
Yeah.
This guy, he's a good player, Fuego. He's a good player.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah. And you know what's interesting is next week the free agency tampering period begins. We're going to see a lot of hints, I guess, on how active the Giants are going after the guard from Jonah Jackson or one of these other guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be like interesting to see if, hey, for all we know, maybe they get 2 guards in free agency, and now your head's spinning on what you think might happen in that second round.
Yeah, no doubt.
I actually see them getting a guard and a swing tackle guard in free agency.
I keep hearing Illuminor. I keep hearing the dude from New England. There's a few names that get floated in there, right?
Alanu, another one, yeah.
Well, all right. Well, Truth, we're saving you. You have to find these diamonds in the rough.
I got one.
All right. Is it the first guy, Kieran Amadaji?
No, he's pretty good though. I like this kid.
I'm going in the right order, right? I'm going off of what
any order you like, Spartan. I like this kid. He what he does, he fires off the ball. You guys spoke about certain guys, how they stand tall. This kid's like 6'5", 320. And you talk about guys who are too high off the snap. This kid stays nice and low off the snap. He drives. He's got good leg strength. He has good hands, which I like to see in an offensive tackle. When he grabs onto you, it's hard to let go. He got good clamps. He also, again, he's physical. He's more of a dominant run blocker than he's a pass protector. But again, he has to develop that, and they will develop them into better pass protectors. And I think this guy's like a 3rd round pick, and I think he's a good player. You hear Yale, and you don't think this guy's going to be a quality player or play in the NFL, but I think this kid's a good player. And
you know what? Let me say this one thing real quick. I mean, of any conference, I hear where it's they went to a smaller school. I never care if it's Ivy League. I always just give a complete pass for it. Now, They are going against different competition levels. Don't get me wrong, but That's the only conference that's not D1 FBS level
Yes.
where every team has a player in the NFL. They've consistently had one for like the last decade.
Yep.
Keep going. Sorry.
No. That's fun. I agree with that. But I think this kid could do well and could compete for a roster spot and a starting position. Maybe not year one.
Yeah.
But I can see him do within his rookie contract, and be. I see a late day 2, early day 3 pick with this kid. But I like him. I like his size. I like his demeanor. I think he's a good player.
What about Patrick Paul out of Houston?
He's one of those guys you talked to before, big kid, right? 6'7", another tall guy.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about another guy, I think, from Houston. Do we have 2 Houston guys here or just one? Let me see.
I think we only have one Houston guy. We have 2 Oklahoma dudes, though.
That's it, 2 Oklahomers.
And
This
2
kid's
Washingtons, too.
Yeah, this kid's big, 6'7", 330 plus pounds. He's got good length, good quickness, and athleticism for his size. I like the kid. Again, right tackle. You look at him, you think of guys like Matt Pert that the Giants had, because he was similar in the size, 6'7", 320 range. But this kid is a definitely better player, and he's been a starter since his redshirt freshman year.
Wow.
So he's got experience.
Wow.
He's got experience. He's got games under his belt. Again, his guy's projected as a late day 2. And I say that because I think the talent in a lot of positions, like the tackle, the wide receiver, is going to push a lot of guys back like this guy. I think this guy gets pushed back mainly because of the other talent in other positions and his position as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I like this kid. I think he's a good player. Now, I don't think the Giants will draft him unless they're giving up on Neal to move on the inside. If they are, and this kid's on the board when they're picking at either 39 or 47, you got to think about it.
No, definitely.
I know I would.
All right, well, how about this guy, Dominic Puny out of Illinois? The reason, again, we've talked about a lot of Illinois guys, right? Is that his name? Is it Puny or Puny?
Puny.
We've talked about a lot of Illinois players over the last 2 years, Truth.
I know. We talked about another guy last week. What's his name? The kid.
D-tackle. It's
Yeah.
And it's not a D-tackle. It's the hell is it? Newton?
Yeah, Newton. It was Newton. It was a defensive tackle. Good player.
Yeah.
This kid Puny, he actually did a good job today in the combine. I was watching him. You see a lot of effort in him, running it out when he's doing all the drills. I saw him on tape. He's a pretty good player. Granted, I got him as a late day 3 pick, like a 4th round pick. Good player, got a little meanness in him. Not a starter from day 1. He's going to have to work his way on a roster and get snaps, and he needs to develop. But I see a good player here. I don't see somebody who's not going to make the roster. Put it that way.
Fair enough. What about Oklahoma? Now we're talking about the left tackle for Oklahoma, right?
Yep.
Walter Rouse.
Rouse.
Yeah, tell me about him. So I'm always a little bit intrigued, right? Because the one concern I have, when there's 2 offensive tackles, is like, well, they weren't even the best tackle on their team. By the way, Oklahoma had a lefty quarterback, right? So this is the guy that protected his strong side. So it's an interesting dynamic. You're a left tackle, but you're protecting the strong side, right? But tell me about him, right? Because, Oklahoma must have been just a good enough team where they've had 2 good offensive linemen that are capable of getting drafted in the top 4 rounds.
Yeah, listen, he's a good-sized kid, 6'6", around 320. He's got the long arms you like to see in a tackle. He's got big hands, over 10 inches. He's got good footwork for his size, and he's got a high motor, which I like. I watched a lot of some film on him, and I like the way he stayed with his blocks well beyond the play went past him. He stayed on his block. And I like to watch things like that. You know,
Yeah.
it just tells me the mindset of these kids when I see them staying with their block and not stopping at all. He gave up zero sacks and 450 snaps.
Wow.
So that's pretty good. But wait till you hear the last guy, what he did. I was shocked when I read this.
This is your guy, Walter Risengarten?
Yeah. This is my man.
This is your
I'm
dude.
Walter Roger, his name is.
Roger?
Isn't it Roger?
Hold on.
Roger Rosengarten. Roger Rosengarten.
Rosengarten. All right, hold up.
Yeah. Okay, so I watched when I was watching tape on Michael Penix. You know, we talk about he's a lefty quarterback, so I want to see the right tackle, how well he protected him. And so that's this guy, Rosengarten. He did a really good job. And listen to this. And I saw this today. I didn't even know this. I was watching a combine, and they had this come up when he did his one of his drills. He has 0 sacks in 1,160 snaps. When I saw that, I'm trying to figure out how many games is that? How many games is that? That's like a season, almost a whole season.
Easily, yeah.
That he did not give up a sack. You know, and I know that Penix is not. He's not a. I know he's a pocket passer, but
he's not mobile. I mean, and yeah, you're right. I mean, like when it's a mobile quarterback, I always feel like, well, you know, they had a little bit of a gift there. Penix wasn't really that gift.
Right. And another thing this kid did today in the combine, he had the fastest 40-yard dash.
How
among
fast
the
was
offensive tackles? He did under 5, 4.94.
Ooh,
4.94. So I'm looking at this. I'm saying, yeah, I'm looking at this kid. I'm watching him, and he just looks like the kind of guy the Giants would draft. You know, day 3 pick. You know, that lunchbox mentality. You know, not flashy. He just sticks his nose in there and grinds away. You know, the David Deals of the Giants. And I see, man, this guy, I can hear them calling his name on day 3.
Yeah.
You know, and it wouldn't bother me if they did. I would kind of like this if they picked him. Of course, I want to see the Giants get some interior linemen, but this would not bother me as a guy who can be there and compete with Evan Neal and, you know, and develop and see what happens in this game as he develops.
I got to look into tape for him because, I mean, I until you mentioned him tonight, I haven't even thought to assess this dude. But I'm very intrigued here, right? We've seen it before where, well, I always go back. This is a little bit different quarterback situation, right? Where Castle backed up Leinart in college, right? But he went on, and I'd almost argue he had a better NFL career than he did.
Yeah.
And so it'd be very impressive if Walter,
Not Walter,
Roger.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm sure it's Roger.
No, I think you're right. I think it's because the last guy was Walter,
Yeah.
so I put Walter in there twice. My bad.
Walter.
What's the big
There it
negative
is.
Big negatives.
on Rosengarten? Yeah.
Well, you know, he's not a brawler. He's not overly like a monster like we talked about the other guys that you had, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think he does with more technique and with
yeah.
will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I see with him. You know, like I said, he's a lunchbox kind of guy that does well because he puts in a lot of effort. He's not going to overpower people, but again, understand that he's going to go through a weight training program like everybody else will when they get drafted, and he's going to get stronger. He's going to get more strength in his lower body, which is going to help him as a lineman. So I'm intrigued with him. And again, I see a day 3 pick here, and to me, for a lineman like this, that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Do you see him as a future starter, Truth, or as a depth piece on a team?
You know, Chris, it might be too early to say this to future starter, but you know, I brought up David Deal before. No one ever thought he'd be a starter.
Sure.
He was more like a guy who played everywhere, center, guard, and then he played tackle, and then he found his home there as the Giants' right tackle. or left tackle. He played right tackle. Yeah. And so it's probably too early to say, but I think this kid will put the effort in to get there. That's what I can definitely say with confidence, that he will put the effort in to get there.
You know, it'd be good for. Yeah,
that's what. Yes.
Right. I say he falls to a good team. That's a playoff team already. Team with a good, good roster, no pressure on him, right? And grow into his spot and spoon feed him, like you said earlier. Truth, right?
Yeah. And let me mention another kid that that I'm just going to mention his name, that I see a part of like a sleeper. He's out of South Dakota State, and Garrett Greenfield. Mm-hmm. Keep an eye on that kid. Name, Listen to him. Keep an eye on that name and hear that name. Mm-hmm. Big kid, 6'6", 320. And again, another kid. I like those guys who are like, they look like they don't shower. They're mean. They're nasty. I like guys like that when they play line. Like the kid they had last year. Remember Cody Mock?
Yes, with the Tampa.
Yes.
Couple teeth missing.
I love that kid. I wish we got him in the draft. I love guys like that.
Yes,
sir. So keep an eye on him. And I like Rosengarten. I think he's going to be someone who's going to when we look back on and say, "Boy, what a quality pick that was." Whoever picks him.
Well, anyway, guys. Hey, look. I mean, we're coming up to the hour here. Chris, thank you so much for hopping on here and breaking down the line with us. It's always a pleasure when you come on. And Giants fans, if you're ever at the Giants tailgate, stop by Chris because he's got a great setup.
He got all the food, all that food. I gotta go.
Yeah, all the free. He's giving away everything for free.
Absolutely, for you guys and everybody here, we will.
We appreciate that, Chris. And Truth,
same here.
Always awesome breaking this down. So to everybody that tuned in, thank you so much for your time. Have a great week. And next week is Truth. Remind me, what's next week? We got edges.
Oh, we got the edges and defensive ends with Shawnee B.
With Shawnee B, guys. So thanks again and have a good week. Peace.